Hey, YouTube. Hey, welcome.
Hoi hoi.
Welcome to our very, very scary Halloween episode. So, Jose, you bring some good books tonight?
You know I did. It's finally October, and it's the time of the year when everybody dresses up in scary costumes, decorates the yards with the latest items they got at a Spirit Halloween store, and binge watch horror movies.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a comic book geek, you show off your latest, scariest horror snacks, and this is what the episode is all about.
That's right. So, we got some really, really scary stuff coming at you guys. So, we're not going to waste any time because we got quite a few books to go through on this scary, scary night. So, let's get started.
Rock and roll. Okay, what could be more appropriate than starting our Halloween episode than some good old-fashioned fear? Fear number one from November 1970. Now, this adventure into fear was a horror comic book series published by Marvel Comics from November 1970 through December 1971-75 for 31 issues. The first 9 issues cover titled only Fear, reprinted sci-fi, fantasy, and monster stories from the late 50s to the early 60s. They're pre-superhero Marvel comics, primarily Journey into Mystery, Strange Tales, Tales to Astonish, and Tales of Suspense reprints. Most were written by Marvel editor-in-chief Stan Lee and or Larry Lieber, and generally penciled by Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, or Don Heck, though occasionally by Paul Reinman or Joe Sinnott. Most of the covers are reprints, though Marie Severin drew the top half of issue 4, John Severin drew the cover of issue number 8, and the team of Gil Kane and Frank Giacoia the covers of issues 5, 6, and 9. This is a monster of a book, 60 page monster, yes, monstrum on the cover. It is a recent snag from what I call my local, the Big P. You can see there I paid $25 for this book. It's a low grade, about a VG plus. This issue reprints Tales to Astonish Volume 1, issues 8 and 10. Finally, for the comic book realm, guys, pricing for this issue for VG4s are $21 US, 4.5s $23, and VG fines $26. I paid right online, and it's a great recent snag.
Awesome.
Next up, the slab number 1. The doctor is in.
Yeah, this is one of those titles I picked up from Gotham Central. It's an indie, Double Take Publishing. Not for the kiddies, that's for sure.
Mature book for adults only.
Very, very, yeah. Now, to tell you the truth, I'm not exactly sure what I think of this book. Truth be told, this is a complete rip-off of George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Now, in their defense, they do give him credit at the back of the book and say how much of a fan they are of Night of the Living Dead and his work. But I mean, this is almost a carbon copy. They even start in the TV studio interviewing the doctor before they start getting into the zombie type thing.
I can understand that they probably consulted with lawyers and they told them, you better give them a credit, otherwise we could be speaking about a lawsuit.
That's right, and you guys would be the ones that are going to be the zombies after that's done. But anyways, a cool little book, doesn't cost you much. Even the cover price on it's only like $3, and you can pick it up at any comic show, for $5 and $6 in the aftermarket. This one came out last year, and I do like it, and needless to say, the cover, that painted cover, is really spectacular.
Cover appeal. Yes, boys and girls, Halloween comes around every year, and during this time, demand for horror comics seems to rise like a ghost from the grave. It's like having an X-Men movie come out every single year to drive up the demand for X-Men comics. Get my drift? Now, since Halloween is right around the corner, it's a perfect time to get the word out. Here for our next book, Dead of Night, number 1, from December 1973. Perfect segue from Eagle-Eyed Oog's previous book, Witch Woman. This has got a cover artist, John Romita Sr. It contains reprints, the stories The Ghost Still Walks, House of Fear, my brother the Ghoul, and he dwells in a dungeon. These are all reprints from stories appearing in Adventures into the Weird Worlds, issue number 6. It's a really nice copy. VF minus, I'm thinking. Comic Book Realm for 7, 7.5, 8, and 8.5 splits are $22, $28, $34, and $36. I think this is about a VF minus, a nice higher grade. And at that price, $28 US, paid $35 Canadian, I'm right in line. Good trick or treat. It wasn't a trick, it was a treat.
Nice.
Next up, Haunted number 21 from April 1975.
Okay, now I really love this book, and this is one of my acquisitions that I picked up at the Toronto Comic Book Show, but not the one we just went to. It's the one we went to earlier in the summer. And I brought this book, held it back because I wanted to wait for the Halloween episode before I showed this, and I'm super excited about picking up this book, and I'll tell you why.
Another Charlton book?
Another Charlton, and again, we discussed this before, Charlton doesn't get much respect, but if ever there was a key for Charlton, this is definitely one of them.
Really? Why so?
Well, if you know anything about Charlton, they had a number of different books related to horror, ghost stories, and that. But this book is the first appearance of Baron Werewolf. Yes, issue 21, the first issue. Now, if you know anything about Charlton, the first 20 issues were hosted by a little ghost-like character named Impy. And then in 21, Baron Werewolf appears for the very first time, and he takes over, and they changed the title from Haunted to Baron Werewolf's Haunted Library. And it's actually quite a nice book, and you can tell that it is more sought after than the other ones, because if you look at the Realm, issue 20 is listed for $14. Issue 22 is listed for $14, but issue 21, this one right here, commands a price in a 9.4 of $32. So like more than double the price, which is so. Yeah, this is a key. Really cool front cover there. I think the cover is done by an artist named Don Newton, someone we don't mention very often. Nice painted cover there. And I just can't say enough about it. I'm super excited about finding this cover. This not only is this a good copy, I would say it's a near mint copy because it is in spectacular condition. Now, for you price guys out there, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of the three prices. Like I said, in a 9.4, according to the Comic Book Realm, you're looking at $32. In a 9.0, $30.40. In an 8.0, the price listed around $27.20.
Typical. 27 to 32 bucks. What is that? $5 and change? You gotta be kidding me.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Really?
probably
How many grades? 8 to 9, 9 to 9. That's 4 major grades, and you got a $5, $6, $7 spread. You gotta be kidding
Yeah.
me. Come on.
So anyways, for any of you guys that don't mind weaning yourself off DC or Marvel for just 2 minutes, this is a great book. The stories are really cool, influenced along the lines of H.P. Lovecraft.
Ooh, HP.
First appearance of a major character for Charlton Comics. You definitely want this book in your collection.
Cool. That leads into my next book, which has got also an H.P. Lovecraft connection. Eerie.
Nice.
Now, why do I recognize this book? I swear I've seen this book somewhere before.
Have you?
You bastard.
We are about to enter the Tower of Shadow.
Wow.
Yes, September 1969, my third #1 book in a row here. This Halloween, I'm featuring a look at the late 60s and early 70s Marvel's venture into horror comic reprints from the period. Now, what makes this special is that it was a horror fantasy anthology comic book published by Marvel. It featured work by such notable creators as writer-artist Neil Adams, my favorite, Jimmy Steranko, Johnny Craig, Wally Wood, writer-editor Stan Lee, and artists including John Buscema, Gene Colan, Barry Windsor Smith, and Bernie Wrightson.
Wow.
So who's who there? Yeah. The stories there were generally hosted by either of the fictional characters, Digger, a grave digger, Headstone P. Gravely, an undertaker, or one of the artists or writers. After the 9th issue, the title changed to Creatures on the Loose, publishing a mix of sword and sorcery features, horror fantasy reprints, sci-fi werewolf feature, Man-Wolf. This was designed to compete with DC's comic successful launches, House of Mystery and House of Secrets.
Kill.
Tower of Shadows, like its companion comic, Chamber of Darkness, sold, however, very, very poorly, despite the roster of artists featured.
No.
Yes. At the stroke of midnight, writer-artist Jimmy Steranko's lead story in this premiere issue won a 1969 Alley Award for Best Feature Story. Its creation, however, had led to a rift between Steranko and editor Stan Lee that caused Steranko to stop freelancing for Marvel, the publisher that has showcased his highly influential work. Lee had rejected Steranko's cover, and the two had clashed over panel design, dialogue, and the story title, initially The Lurking Fear at Shadow House. According to Steranko, at a 2006 panel, Stan Lee disliked or did not understand the homage to horror author H.P. Lovecraft and devised his own title for the story. After much conflict, Steranko either quit or was fired. Stan Lee phoned him about a month later after both had cooled down, and Steranko would return, but it would only produce a few covers for Marvel in 72, 73. This, for me, is a Steranko key.
Wow.
The book that led to his large withdrawal from comics for a while, at least with Marvel. But wow, what a good pickup.
So they actually had a falling out over this.
Yeah, I wish there was a better copy. Another recent snag from the scratch and dent bins at the Big P, as I call it.
Yeah.
It's a low grader. It's about a 4.45 VF plus. From the comic book realm, you know, you're talking a book under $20. 5.5s maybe 23, 6s 33, 6.5s 44. Now, in really nice condition, and I will only go as far as a 9.2 from Overstreet, from the latest Overstreet price guide. 9.2s are dropping for about $1.40, so not insignificant. That's about $1.75 Canadian, and that's Overstreet. So, and it's a seller's market. You can add some and then some. I wish I had a good copy. Remind me again, what do you think your copy's greatest?
Oh, Jose, you haven't pulled it out of my box in quite a long time.
We
But
think it's, yeah.
I'd say it's around an 8.
Yeah, that's what I thought, around
Around an
7.58.
eight,
That's
yeah.
not a bad book. That's about $100 book, I
Now,
would say.
Do you have this one as well, Mike?
No,
I was thought
They
this-
had another copy there, I think, but it was poor condition in this
Okay.
one. This was the better of the two.
Over it.
So bottom line, there's a great story behind this, the Steranko Stan Lee falling out.
Yeah.
And in that respect, it certainly is a key of sorts.
Oh, of course. And this book has an interesting connection with my previous segment, Dead of Night #1, because guess who the artist is for both covers? John Romita Sr.
Whoa.
Can you believe the difference? The other one, an in-your-face punch, visceral to the stomach with the ghost creeping out.
Yeah.
But this one, more dark and atmospheric, more subtle. Same artist, John Romita Sr., showing his work there for horror titles. Great stuff.
Very scary.
Nice.
And another Charlton book.
I don't believe in coincidences, but in almost 50 episodes, we've never had a Charlton title before. Now 2 in 2 episodes?
Yes, this is Ghostly Haunts number 29, January 1973, which is a Ditko cover. And of course, when I was a kid, I did not know that. This was from the box that came up from Nova Scotia that my dad said, get rid of it, put it out on the curb. And then deep and dark at the night, I crawled out and grabbed a whole bunch of books, and this is one of the ones that survived from my childhood.
Yeah.
It's a
So-
survivor.
And it also happened to be a horror comic book. There's another rougher one that I had, but you don't want to see it.
So this is not a book you collected after the fact. This is actually from your childhood,
This
from the
is-
1970s.
I basically grabbed about 12 books from the box, and my dad was so mad. I didn't know why. It turned out to be a different story than what was going on. And I took these and I hid them. I did read them when he wasn't around, when he was at work or whatever, and I kept them. As rough as condition as they were in, I just kept them anyway. So, yeah, it's just awesome. Now, this is probably easily a 4.0, which is the scariest thing of the whole show. This
Yeah.
is very... If this was nicer, I mean, if this was a much nicer, if you go up the ranks, you know, if you were into like an 8, it would be 1190 US. 9 would be 13, 9.2 would be 1350 on the realm, although I think those 9.2s are a little off. It'd probably be higher than that. Carltons are starting to show up at the cons. I've seen them get some traction now, actually. People are looking for wholesome, scary stuff and stuff like that. So, and it's a great read. It's one of my faves. Obviously, I've read it over and over again.
I think the condition speaks to the fact that most horror titles were consumed by kids. In other words, they read them because they loved them, while we took better care of our superhero books because we cherished them and loved them and wanted to kind of keep that connection. So horror titles, anecdotally, like I said, in the market, they're harder to find in higher grades, generally speaking.
And trust me, I've read all of my old horror books 3, 4, 5 times easily.
That's what I say. I literally mean they were consumed.
And personally, speaking for me, I mean, I love the Marvel and the DC, but I love the Gold Keys and the Charltons as well. And I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to keep collecting them when I find them. And, haha, Marvel Spotlight number 3. A very scary book, Jose. A very scary book.
Yes. We're throwing the spotlight to the number 3 issue here from Volume 1, May 1972. Second appearance of Werewolf by Night. Yes. When it comes to the first appearance of Werewolf by Night in Marvel Spotlight number 2, the prices just went boom. For some reason, for that key. I've always wanted the first appearance with that wonderful Neil Adams Metamorphosis cover, but I've been gun shy about plopping big bucks and breaking my self-imposed price ceiling of $300 Canadian. I saw a beat-up copy at the Toronto Comic Book Show being sold by the Batcave for only $35 Canadian, but the condition was too tough to consider. When you're looking at strategies, there's no right way to go about it. You can climb the condition ladder down until to reach a grade where you're comfortable with the price. So in other words, you pay for the rougher the better, as long as you can afford it. But me, I've always thought buy the best condition second appearance, which is a much better option. You will never regret your purchase. Now we're going to talk about why I'm a werewolf fan. I read Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf as a kid and enjoyed the movies Silver Bullet, The Howling, Wolfen, and the King Daddy of them all, the Citizen Kane of werewolf movies, in my opinion, An American Werewolf in London. Jenny Agutter was never finer. Yeah, she's great. Still, I have no clue why I think werewolves are visually cool. I just think they are.
They are.
Yeah, I do like vampires, but I have to admit that during the Underworld movie series, I rooted for the Lycans. But then again, during the Lost Boys, I actually rooted for the vamps.
Yeah.
That's true.
In any case, to say a final word on this thing, this is again emphasizing second appearances. Buy them in the best condition you can. You'll never go wrong. I paid right about what the condition is for the grade, which is about an 8 or an 8.5, a VF plus. From the big P there, $70 US, $85 Canadian. In any case, from the comic book realm, 8.5s are $95, 9s are $100. And near mint 9.2 minuses are 102. Again, typical comic book realm, low spreads between major grades, $7, $10. I think it's exactly what I paid for it. It might be $100 book, but it's not worth slabbing. Still, it reflects the great Marvel house style. One of my favorite eras to collect are the mid-70s with the 20% picture paint covers. I love Wolfie's expression. He's about to be shredded by Craig with those silver claws if he can't get out of there. I love his expression. It's like, whoop. Get out of that, Wolfie, and that kind of like beehived, kind of wearing like the madame there. I mean, she's great. I love these picture paint covers. They're really, really great. My favorite.
That's a really nice book. Really nice book, Jose.
Love 'em too.
And I'm glad you brought up American Werewolf in London, because that is a fantastic. And if I'm not mistaken, that movie won the Academy Award for the best special effects that year.
Yeah, yeah, it did.
Yeah, and being a big Logan's Run fan, I'm a big Jenny Agutter fan, and she's never looked better. And I really, really did like that movie. And while we're on the topic of movies, last year we discussed, which movies, we each chose a movie that we really like to watch around this time of year. And because Halloween is definitely the time of year where we're all watching scary movies. And if I remember correctly, last year Mike mentioned Prince of Darkness,
I did.
I went with the Vamps, Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot, and I chose Halloween. So I'm going to ask you the same question, each of you guys this year. I want to know, being that this is Halloween, October, a very scary time of year. Well, let's start with you, Jose. What other movies do you like watching at this time of year at Halloween?
I've already watched it, and actually this is a more modern movie, but 30 Days of Night actually was excellently done. A great take, and if I'm not mistaken, the source material for that was comic book related. It was a graphic
Yes,
novel
you're
or
right.
something like
Absolutely.
that. Very well done. The creepiest head vampire played by Danny Houston was great, and it really got on you, and you just felt like you were there trapped with those people for 30 days evading the vamps. It was a great movie.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think our friend Steve is a big fan of that film as well.
I'm a big fan of that
Second
too.
movie, not so much.
Absolutely.
Don't watch the sequel; it'll ruin your memory of it. But the very first one, yeah, definitely check it out.
Actually, it's funny you should mention 30 Days of Night, because if I'm not mistaken, not at the 2016 Fan Expo, but the 2015 Fan Expo, the writer and the artist were both there. And I wanted to buy that book and get them to sign it, but I just, again, like always, I just flat out ran out of time and never got a chance to do it. Now, for me, actually, never mind. Let's start with Mike. Mike, you go next. What movie do you like? What do you like watching?
I mean, you've mentioned a few of the earlier titles that we remember used to have your girlfriend cling to your arm, and I'm going to bring up another one that just had a steady pace of eeriness through it the whole damn thing, and that is Heart of Darkness with Robert De Niro.
Oh, you're talking about Angel Heart.
Oh, sorry, Angel Heart. Angel Heart. Sorry, Angel
Okay,
Heart with
yeah, with Robert De Niro playing Louis Cypher. Yes,
Louis Cypher, who
it had a very noir
Devil-
feel, that
and
movie
it had
with Mickey Rourke,
Mickey Rourke and
Lisa Bonet.
Lisa Bonet.
Actually, the interesting, it created a ruckus because there was very graphic, explicit sexual scenes in the movie, and she
Absolutely.
was scolded because she was on the Cosby Show at the time.
It actually cost her job on the Cosby Show.
Yeah, and
right.
it's talk about a pot calling the kettle black. You know, like somebody like Cosby, like berating her and firing her from the show, and considering his recent revelations with women. I don't
Okay,
know.
guys. Okay.
It's calling the kettle black there, but that's
It's-
all that needs to be said about that.
It certainly is, but I'm glad you brought up Angel Heart, Mike, because it's a movie we don't mention very often anymore. And it is, in my opinion, I know Mickey Rourke won his Academy Award for The Wrestler, but in my opinion, Angel Heart is Mickey Rourke's best work,
Absolutely.
bar none. So, anyways, okay, so I'm going third. This is my movie, and I picked something that a lot of you guys probably aren't going to even recognize the name of. I picked an indie flick. Because I know we've all watched horror movies, and we watch the independent horror movies, and for the most part, they're well, let's call it what it is. Most of the time, they're shit. So when you do get to see a really good indie movie, it's few and far in between. And I saw one a few years ago, and I've never forgotten, and I ended up buying it, and I watch it regularly every Halloween, and it's called Midnight Movie. Now, like I said, this is an independent film. It was directed by a guy named Jack Messett. Now, there's a household name. Written by Sean Hood and starring actress that you probably haven't seen in any other movies. I know I've never seen her in any other movie. Her name is Rebecca Brands. And you can tell by the acting, it's rank amateur. The film was done for under $1 million, which today's standards is next to nothing. So it was released by a company called Bigfoot Entertainment, and with a budget of less than $1 million, and it was really, really well done. Me and Steve were bored one night, and he brought it over to my house. I think he rented it at, one of the variety stores, and surprisingly, it was excellent. It really, in fact, it is the best independent horror movie I've ever seen. Now remember, I said independent. So if you rent it and you're expecting to get Bram Stoker's Dracula, forget about it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an independent horror movie that's really well done. And this is by far one of the best. Just give you an example of how well it's done. It won all kinds of awards at all kinds of different horror festivals, including Best Feature Film and Best Cinematography at the Chicago Film Festival. Huffington Post, I think they labeled it as one of the top 10 horror movies of all time, which is wow. It's overstating it.
Big time. That's tough, man. That's a tough circle to break. Top 10 of all time.
Yeah,
come on.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. It's getting the acclaim, but
if you've got an open mind and you want to see a really good independent horror film, then Midnight Movie is definitely the film for you. So that's the one I've chosen. The one that I'm sure that none of you guys have ever heard of, but if you see it, if you can find it, I think it's worth watching. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
Well, thanks for throwing us that curveball.
Oh, wow, we got to check that out then. If you've got it, we got to see it.
Okay, for Oogie's last book of the night, we have Secrets of Haunted House, issue number 19.
Yes, from December 1979, Luis Dominguez.
Oh, the Latin brother strikes again.
Here's another nice gem I think I got from BMV. I'm not sure. It looked like one that I need to pull out for a Halloween episode. This one looks like it's about an 8.
$10.
On the realm, $10 US. And I probably paid about $7.99 for it. I'm so happy.
Nice cover. Very, very tasty cover, man.
And I've got the flu, so that floating eyeball, I know exactly how that feels right now.
Scary.
Yeah. And that's about it.
All right, and for our last trick or treat from Polly, we have Ghosts number 108.
Now, it wouldn't be me if I didn't at least show one ghost book. Now, I'm always at the cons. I'm always trying to find these. And as I've told you before, eventually I will complete the entire collection of ghost books. Now, I think this one I actually picked up at DecemberCon last year. I just never got around to showing it, nor would I. This is a Halloween book. It's a scary book. I would leave this till October. And nothing particularly special about the book. Like Jose said, it's issue number 108. I think the entire series only ran to 112 issues before it was done. So this is getting very close to the end. It came out January 1982. So it is 34 years old, and considering how old this book is and how and what beautiful condition it's in, it's actually very scary the prices that this book is selling for. If you want a 9, just for those price guys out there, we got a 9.2 is only listed on the comic book realm for $7.75. A 9.0 around $7.60, and for an 8.0, which was that a VG, an 8.0?
That's a VF.
VF, you're looking at about $6.80.
Jeez, you can't eat at McDonald's for that, man.
Oh yeah, I know. So the books are dirt cheap, not getting the respect they really deserve. Especially the earlier issues are. The earlier issues are starting to increase in price, but the later issues, still.
What it's going to come down to as far as market demand, boys and girls, is the quality or the appearance of the cover. And this one's got a nice Kubert spectral kind of ghost kind of graveyard cover, so that's going to make a lot of difference, I think, there.
Yeah.
The more appealing the cover, the more eerie, the more grabbing, the more visceral, the higher their price.
Yeah, and I picked it up in the $3 bin, so...
Oh, it's a nice $3 snag, man.
Can't
Nothing
go
wrong with that.
I think fans like us on YouTube might help as well.
And Jose, last book of the night. Jose is rising from the grave. to bring us our very last books of the evening, and this is Lady Death, Lady Death versus Vampirella.
That's right. Dark Hearts from March of '99. It's a combination book from Harris and Chaos Comics. And of course, like any good nerd, I do love to shell out the bucks for a good intercompany crossover. It makes the fans happy by putting together characters who would only logically meet in fan fiction. And it makes the shareholders happy by getting your competitor to actually promote your product, and vice versa. Thus, we have things like Batman versus the Punisher, Green Lantern and Silver Surfer, Captain America meets Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS. Oops, sorry, that's my own fan fiction, or at least until the glorious day that a DC editor's car breaks down outside my apartment. Anyway, one of the more obscure but Halloween theme appropriate intercompany crossovers, Vampirella versus Lady Death, Dark Hearts. Hey, it's a modern classic from December of '99. Now, Vampirella is one of those odd characters that you can't really describe as obscure, but at the same time has a cult following that's not all that visible. If you can get past the fact that Vampirella was originally more of a damsel in distress than the kick-ass bad girl heroine later writers turned her into, her original 60s comic series published by Warren is, for me, for the most part, a very unappreciated gem, merging horror, sci-fi, pure camp in a way that for some reason could only really be done in the 1960s. There are other good points after her character was revived in the 90s by Harris, and in fact, her gory, skimpy adventures were preserved by big names in the comic book world industry. People like Adam Hughes, Amanda Conner, Grant Morrison, and Mark Millar. To be honest, I haven't read much of Vampirella aside from some of the original 60s comics, but I do plan to actually review some of the 90s comics in this space sooner or later. It's also worth mentioning that even though Harris gave up on comics years ago, Dynamite Comics got the rights and is currently publishing Vampirella comics. I haven't read Dynamite's Vampirella either, but regardless, I do encourage you guys to check them out for yourself. Now, considered a vampire because she needs blood to survive, Vampirella has all the powers but none of their weaknesses. Hailing from the planet of Draculon, she was sent to Earth to kill all the evil vampires, making her first appearance in 1969. She is considered one of the earliest bad girls in comic books. So that is her. Now, of course, we have Lady Death. She is so sexy there on the cover.
Ooh.
Yeah. This is basically like I said, a company which basically did it released with another company, and it's got such a great cover. Inside, the artwork is gorgeous. I mean, what can I say? It's a really great pickup for only $15 from the Batcave at the Toronto Comic Book Show. It's one of those books we didn't get around to even in the recent snags, but because I thought it was appropriate for this Halloween special, I saved it for that.
Oh, for
great
sure,
cover
for
appeal
sure.
there. Great cover appeal.
And Vampirella, I'm reading the current series right now. Awesome. I'm loving it. It doesn't have the same historical ties to it, but it is like a new image of her, and it is amazing.
It is amazing some of the cool stuff we've been picking up at the Batcave this year, isn't it?
Oh, love it. Love it. Those guys are awesome.
Well, what can I say? That is absolutely spectacular. This has been an absolutely amazing, very scary episode we put together, guys. And so I'd like to thank all you guys for coming out to the old graveyard, surrounded by dead bodies and corpses and vampires and all that shit going on, and braving this nice Halloween night to show us these really, really scary and really, really cool books. And yeah, so I think that's it. That's the end of our Halloween very scary episode. And guys, thanks for watching. And if you like what you saw, leave a comment, because we love reading them. I know with this episode you're getting a lot of horror books. You're not getting any keys. You're not getting the Batman keys and the Superman keys and the Spider-Man keys, because it's about horror. So it's a completely different genre whatsoever. So
we will be back.
But I think it's a cool genre. I think everybody should be into it. And I'm hoping I'm going to see you guys putting together some of your really scary books this October as well. So, again, thanks for watching, and we will see you next year.
Hoy, hoy.
Special guest Mike. Yes, yes.